I didn't think I would ever regret getting married. For years, I told myself I made the right choice. We built a life together, shared responsibilities, stayed committed. But somewhere along the way, something changed. And the hardest part wasn't a big moment. It was realizing it quietly over time. Many men enter marriage believing one thing above everything else: that love, if it's real, is enough. That if you show up, if you work hard, if you provide and protect and stay faithful, the rest of it will fall into place. I believed that. Most men my age believed that. Nobody told us that two people could do everything right and still end up strangers living under the same roof. I got married at 28. She was kind, she was steady, and I thought that steadiness was what I needed after a childhood that had been anything but. We didn't fight much in those early years. We didn't talk much either, but I didn't know the difference back then. I thought the absence of conflict meant we were doing well. I thought a quiet house was a happy house. The first decade passed the way most decades do when you're too busy to look up. There were children to raise, bills to pay, a career that demanded more of me than I ever planned to give. I told myself we'd have time later. There's always later when you're in your 30s. You believe time is something you have in abundance, and you spend it like it costs nothing. But here's what nobody prepares you for. The distance that grows between two people doesn't arrive like a storm. It doesn't announce itself. It settles in slowly, the way dust settles on furniture in a room nobody uses anymore. You stop asking each other real questions. You stop sharing the things that actually matter to you. And eventually, you stop expecting the other person to understand you at all. And what's worse is, you stop trying to understand them, too. You both just move through the house, through the days, through the years, and you call it a life. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one Sunday morning, maybe 15 years into the marriage, watching her read the newspaper, and I had this thought that frightened me. I thought, I don't know this woman. Not really. I knew her habits. I knew what she ordered at restaurants and how she liked her coffee and which side of the bed she preferred. But I didn't know what she was afraid of anymore. I didn't know what she still hoped for. And when I asked myself honestly whether she knew those things about me, I already knew the answer. The regret that comes at 75 is a particular kind of regret. It isn't the sharp, hot regret of a mistake you made last week. It's slower than that. It's the kind that sits with you in the early morning when the house is quiet and you find yourself going back through the years like a man flipping through photographs, asking himself where he was looking when this picture was taken and why he looks so absent even in the happy ones. I'm not saying the marriage was wrong. I'm not saying she was wrong, or I was wrong, or that we should have done something different. What I'm saying is that two people can commit to each other completely and still fail to actually reach each other. And they can spend 40 years not realizing that's what they've been doing because they were too comfortable, or too tired, or too afraid of what they might find if they looked too closely. The men I know who feel this way don't talk about it. Not publicly, not even to each other in any direct way. It comes out sideways, in the way an old man says he wishes he'd traveled more, or spent more time doing the things that made him feel alive. What he's really saying, if you listen carefully, is that he wishes he'd been more present. Not just in his marriage, but in himself. He lost himself somewhere along the way, gave himself over to the demands of building a life, and by the time he looked up, the man he used to be had been gone so long, he couldn't quite remember what that man had wanted. There's a particular silence in a long marriage that isn't peaceful. It looks peaceful from the outside. Two old people sitting together, not needing to say much. But sometimes that silence isn't contentment. Sometimes it's two people who have quietly given up trying to be known by each other and have made their peace with it in the only way they know how, by calling it companionship, by calling it enough. I don't say any of this to be cruel to the memory of what we had. There was love there, I believe that. Love isn't always the thing that gets lost. Sometimes love stays and understanding goes. Sometimes you hold on to a person for a lifetime and never quite figure out how to hold on to the connection that made the whole thing worth starting. If you're younger than me, and I suspect many of you are, I want you to sit with what I've just said. Not to frighten you, not to make you doubt what you have, but to ask yourself whether you are actually present in your marriage, or whether you're managing it, whether you're showing up as the person you really are, or the version of yourself that's easiest to maintain. Because the years will pass either way. The house will get quieter either way. The only question is whether you'll look back and feel that the person you shared it all with actually knew you. That's the one thing I wish I had understood sooner. Not that love isn't enough, though sometimes it isn't, but that knowing someone, truly knowing them, and letting them truly know you, doesn't happen on its own. It has to be chosen again and again, in the ordinary moments, in the quiet Sunday mornings, in all the days when nothing important seems to be happening, but everything actually is.